Welcome to the October 23rd, 2017, meeting of the Pine-Richland School Board. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Dr. Banyas.
Here.
Ms. Dawson.
Here.
Mr. Sundo.
Here.
Mr. Kashani.
Here.
Mr. DiTullio.
Here.
Ms. Goebel.
Here.
Ms. Johnston.
Here.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Mr. Stegman. Thank you.
Very brief president's statement. The board met in executive session prior to the regular meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. I also, for those of you who are here and those of you who are watching on TV, we will be having a brief discussion of the somewhat cryptically worded November ballot question during board business, so I invite you all to stay tuned for that. Move on to our first recognition of visitors. If anybody wishes to approach and speak to the board, please do so. Seeing none, move on. Item 1.03, student recognition.
Thank you. Topping student recognition, we have an update. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation is honoring 7 additional Pine-Richland students. They are naming Alyssa Bigley, Callista Carnes, Charlotte Laubacher, Benjamin Martin, Kyung-Woo Park, Alexander Steger, and Tylerville Jazdy as commended students in the 2018 program. In September, we told you about students who were named semi-finalists. They include Ryan Ahern, Chelsea Carver, Nathan Chang, Bruce Gia, Muhek Sethi, and commended and semi-finalists are among the top scorers on the PSAT. So congratulations, and we'll probably get back to you in January or February with our finalists. Several Pine-Richland students were named Skills USA officers for 2017-18 through the A.W. Beatty Career Center. They include Trevor Wozniak, Senior Gregory Oliver, and Senior Savannah Lerman. Also, Skills USA provides competition for students, so these students will oversee that. Several students were named Students of the Month in September to October. They include Caitlin Mahich, sophomore Jeffrey Swanson, senior Trevor Valentic, and also Austin Will. So congratulations. Eden Hall Upper Elementary School Principal Stephen Smith is back from Washington, D.C. Mr. Smith received an award at the National Conference on October 12th for being named the Pennsylvania 2017 National Distinguished Principal, Pennsylvania's, and he received an award at that conference, and also on the 15th he was recognized locally at the Principals Association State Conference in Cranberry. And Mr. Smith and his assistant principals, Joe Dalmagala and Greta Kazilla, were also recently published in the September edition of the PA Administrators Magazine's Educational Leadership. The article focused on Eden Hall's approach to challenging students to grow academically and socially, as well as empowering teachers to lead the way. Also out of Eden Hall, we have Eden Hall teacher Mary Ann Sanders, who was named 2017 Girls on the Run Western PA Coach of the Year. She was recognized for being a positive role model, and she was honored just this Friday. And the mission of the program is to create opportunities to build confidence and develop teamwork through running. So congratulations. Also, fall sports teams are moving on to the WIPIALs and PIAs. The Pine-Richland updates, you can find them at pinerichland.org/athletics to review the latest. Notably, high school golfer Lauren Freivogel took first in the WIPIALs and is competing in the PIAs, along with sophomore Donnie Professori and junior Rico Schooley. The boys and girls varsity soccer teams both played in the first rounds of the WIPIALs, with the girls being named the #1 seed in the playoffs. Girls field hockey also earned first as it moves into first in its section as they move into WIPIAL play. Also, the girls tennis team earned second at WIPIALs and will play in the PIAs later this week. Also, girls tennis doubles players Melissa Vicardi and Alyssa Sarver played in the first round of WPIALs against Oakland Catholic. And at the middle school, we have the girls cross country team placing first out of 29 teams at the MAC Invitational Cooper program, and the high school boys and girls cross-country teams compete on WPIALs on October 26th. So lots of things going on with sports. Also, high school is busy rehearsing 2 theater productions. The Thespians will perform Alice in Wonderland, and the high school theater students will perform A Christmas Carol. You can see those this November, but also visit Pine-Richland.org for the ticket information. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Ms. Hathorn. I'm almost out of breath listening to you. I don't know how you got through that so quickly. Item 1.04, correspondence. Ms. Williams.
Ryan Colombo emailed the board regarding the primary election.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Item 1.05, minutes for approval. Motion to approve the meeting minutes as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to strategic plan update, school start times. Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Banyas. We're not planning a long update tonight, but at our October 9th Student Services Committee meeting, we did discuss school start times. Specifically, some of the literature around later school start times for high school, middle school age students and the impact that may have on them. This is a topic that emerges and reemerges in the media and in other places in schools. And after discussion and recommendation at the committee meeting, there is support for looking at the feasibility of school start times as it relates to students at Pine-Richland. So what we have tonight, and we're not going to go through the attachment, this was shared at the committee meeting. It's here publicly for those who'd like to look at it. There's a link to resources that provide some good background reading. In my next communication to parents, I'll also describe this very briefly, just indicating we're beginning to look at the topic, and we're starting with the basic idea of shifting the existing structure. So high school, middle school is our first run. Eden Hall second, primaries third, just shifting that back to see if there's a meaningful amount of time that can be gained in that way. For example, the current high school, middle school day begins at 7:20. The first bus stop time is much, much earlier than that. But we do have a layover of time for some of our buses after the high school, middle school route. So we're exploring right now what an 8 o'clock start would look like. And because of some of the layover time, we might be able to move those first bus stops back as much as an hour later in the morning. And so there are a lot of ramifications of that, and many of them involve transportation, also the length of the student day, and needing to ensure that the primary day ends at a reasonable time for families. So that first idea of shifting times back is what's being studied. As we learn more information and have something that people can see and react to, we will then bring that forward to the board and to committee and to the community, just to sort of work through that process together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Any questions from the board? Thank you again. Moving on to finance, Mr. Sundo.
Item 3.01, motion to approve the financial report stated October 23rd, 2017, and accounts payable dated October 23rd, 2017, in the amount of $1,159,337.70, and paid accounts for September and October in the amount of $10,096,754.29 as listed.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.02, motion to approve the budget transfers in the amount of $70,991.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.03, motion to approve Jordan Tax Services, the Deputy Real Estate Tax Collector for 2018 through 2021 for the Pine-Richland School District at a cost of $3.50 per account and $1.65 per account for the installment process, which includes the preparation of the tax bills and collection of school real estate taxes.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed? Motion passes.
Item 3.04 is an informational item. Reminder that a joint Finance, Building, and Grounds Committee meeting has been scheduled for November 13th at 6 p.m. Tentative topics to be discussed include capital funding, projects update, print and copy services. Item 3.05 is also an information item. A Finance Committee meeting has been scheduled for December 11th, 2017 from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Tentative topics include review of audited financial statements, a bond market update, and discussion on the 2018-2019 general fund budget.
Thank you, Mr. Sundo. Any additional questions? Thank you again. Moving on, academic achievement, Ms. Dawson.
Item 4.01 is an information item with the long-awaited and very exciting November 20th, 6 p.m. discussion, the Academic Achievement and Growth Report. Please attend. We're looking forward to it.
Yes, there will be no board meeting, so there's no hard stop on that one to allow us enough time to discuss this. Moving on, buildings and grounds, Mr. DiTullio.
Item 5.01, motion to approve a change order for the Eden Hall Upper Elementary parking lot expansion project in the amount of $2,142 as attached.
Second. The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 5.02, motion to authorize the administration to enter into an agreement with the electric supply services for Wexford Elementary only if the price is lower than our current price with a target savings of $7,000 annually.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. DiTullio. Student Services, Ms. Johnston.
Item 6.01 is a motion to approve the Student Services consent agenda, including items 6.02 through 6.07 as listed below.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6.08 is a motion to approve the clubs and activities listed below for Pine-Richland High School as student activity groups in accordance with Board Policy 618.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 6.09, this is an informational item on the AR Regulation 209.2 Diabetes Management.
And we developed this AR basically in response to Act 68, which amended the PA school code, and so now diabetic training is happening for all personnel. We heard earlier this evening that we're doing that for our school bus drivers in addition to staff members, and there are 3 different levels of training, each of which have a different certification statement that we need to keep on file. All staff members need to be trained in that level 1, which is basic knowledge of the signs and symptoms of hyper and hypoglycemia, as well as responses that need to be taken. Level 2 is for any teacher or individual who has a diabetic student on their roster. That would even include lunch and recess monitors. And then level 3 are for personnel members who would want to assist the school nurse in being an additional trained diabetes management personnel member. So the regulation actually takes us through the documentation that we need, the training certifications, and the different forms that are necessary to go along with that. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Stilbaugh, and thank you, Ms. Johnson. Any additional questions in Student Services? Thank you again. Staff Services, Ms. Goebel.
Item 7.01, motion to approve the personnel and supplemental items as attached.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Ms. Mizbach, is this your first volunteer certification? Glad to see you there again.
Just for you.
Thank you.
We got more volunteer work for you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.02, motion to approve the second reading of the 100 policy batch as listed below.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.03, motion to approve the staff attendance and application of Jean Whalen, Director of College and Career Counseling, to participate in the counselor information session at Butler University in Indianapolis, Indiana, from Thursday, November 30th through Saturday, December 2nd.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
Item 7.04, motion to approve the staff attendance and application of Mr. Jared Slim, Pine-Richland High School Social Studies teacher, to participate in the Advanced Placement European History Instructional Strategies Training in Cincinnati, Ohio, from Friday, October 20th through Saturday, October 21st.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a quick comment on that. I apologize for that, but the reason we had to make this late ad is because we had a training scheduled for him in Pittsburgh that was canceled. We wanted him to participate. So you see the date is already passed, but it was something we felt was appropriate for him. He has already received part of the training over the summer, so this was an extension to that summer training, and the Pittsburgh training that he was scheduled for was canceled.
So you had to spend part of this weekend in Ohio?
That's correct.
Cincinnati? Appreciate the dedication.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Goebel. Operational Services, Mr. Lyons.
Item 8.01 is a motion to approve the integration of Clever to sync student rosters from eSchool and provide a single sign-on access for students and teachers.
Second.
The item has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I would just ask Mr. Stobenner again, you're confident with the security of a single sign-on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes.
And item 8.02 is a review of the just passed Joint Operational Services Academic Achievement Committee meeting. I will do my best to give a summary, but for those who attended, feel free to jump in. We covered the three big operational items: technology, food service, and transportation. Sodexo provided an update on the initiatives that were spurred by conversations and the strategic plan that we had with them. For those who have been at our board meetings where we discussed food service, I would highly recommend you go and look at the slides. In all cases, the slides for each three of these areas actually are even more comprehensive than we're able to cover. In Sodexo's case in particular, some very specific metrics, not just talking about soft data or making better food and it looks nicer, but there was some good data in terms of purchasing patterns that we're seeing emerge at Eden Hall and the high school that I think is showing, clear preference for the students purchasing Sodexo items. So we'll continue to follow on those metrics. That is one of the things we talk about as a board is we come up with these goals, but how are we following it? So I think we landed it there. Student Transportation of America provided their transportation update. Over the past couple of years since that contract began, we've had a number of challenges with staffing. They did address that. They're currently fully staffed, which is something we received in our updates. They've pretty much acknowledged they've increased their compensation and the format of their compensation in order to reach those levels, which I think is usually a solution that works. and talked about bus safety and the initiatives there, some of the challenges with respect to public and parochial schools. I thought it was worth noting, they highlighted in their experience, and they're an organization with a fairly large footprint, but we are the only school they're aware of that holds a annual summer information meeting. This took place this July, where we bring in, or invite at least, up to 40 public and non-public and parochial schools to discuss transportation challenges and shifting demographics. That was particularly helpful this year as we saw the consolidation of a number of North Hills Catholic elementary schools, and they commented on that. Finally, technology. Again, I'd encourage you to look at the slides. What Sean provided us with from the Bright Bite surveys and the teacher assessment were clear and comprehensive indicators of performance from our base year in 2014, and the shift in the distribution of responses from my wireless access and service I get from IT is below average to maybe average. That shift dramatically to the right at average and above average is something you probably won't often see. So just a dramatic change there. Maybe more importantly, looking forward, Mr. Sobener also talked about the initiatives, especially in professional development, which, to be fair, Sean, the surveys did show we still do need to achieve that level of growth. So both a self-assessment and how it's migrating into the classroom, we know we can do more, leveraging the good infrastructure and access to hardware that we have built over the past 3 years.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. I guess I would just add a couple of things to clarify, or not to clarify, but just to add to what he said, that at the food service, they made a comment, Mr. Lyons made a comment of the data showing positive trend. One of the trends we noticed is that as the food has become tastier, the students are more likely to order the meal instead of picking and choosing potentially less nutritious items. So we consider that to be a positive development. Also, the transportation company acknowledged the use of the routing software, which they've found to be very helpful, and also acknowledging that Pine-Richland was on the forefront of choosing that software, which is now becoming more popular with other school districts. And lastly, Mr. Stobenner's presentation was outstanding, and Mr. Stobenner also continues to acknowledge, mention, and stress that the technology, as much as we want it to grow, is only a tool. It does not become a goal in and of itself, but is a goal of advancing the education of the course. And the administration has never lost sight of that to their great credit. So, any additional comments from attendees? Thank you, Mr. Lyons. I move on to board business, and I did want to, as sort of a pseudo-public service, do you have that ballot initiative up there? It is, can you pull it up? Yes. You can blow it up so people might be able to read it. This is the ballot initiative, which is going to appear on your ballot, and it's hard to unpack in the short amount of time that you might be standing there. And I wanted to see if any of the board members, other than me, has any comments on it before I speak, because it's useful to try to help people understand what this actually means, what they're voting for or against.
Would you like to read it or have someone read it?
I'll be happy to read it. Shall the Pennsylvania Constitution be amended to permit the General Assembly to enact legislation authorizing local taxing authorities to exclude from taxation up to 100% of the assessed value of each homestead property within a local taxing jurisdiction, rather than limit the exclusion to 1/2 of the median assessed value of all homestead property, which is the existing law?
Yeah, I would probably just like to say a couple things. One, if it was fully understood by the voter, I don't see why a voter would vote no. However, I think if the voter thinks that this is coming down the pike anytime soon, meaning money in their pocket, I mean, there's no funding source for it. They're basically doubling the cap, and nobody has reached that cap yet anyway. So I think, yeah, it sounds good. I would vote yes to it, but I certainly don't expect any additional help with my real estate taxes in the foreseeable future as a result of this referendum.
Anybody else have a comment on it?
Yeah, it does sound good, and that's, I suspect it'll pass. I'm not certain that I'll vote for it myself, or that I would want to see it pass at this point. And the problem with it is, it sounds good in some ways, that it removes an obstacle that exists in the Pennsylvania Constitution right now. So basically, it would give the legislature the ability to enact a 100% homestead exemption. So if you live in your house, they can exempt your residents 100% from property taxes, which actually right now is apparently, I didn't know this, contrary to the Pennsylvania Constitution. So that sounds like a good thing.
Again, just so it's a median assessed value
Right.
of, so your home, depending on what it's valued at, you may not get 100%.
You may not get to 100%, right? It would significantly increase it. The issue I have is, it just raises questions. So anytime somebody wants to give me money, but they haven't cut expenses, means they're just reaching around into the other pocket, and I'd like to know what pocket it is they're reaching into before I...
Well, again, just as a public service, what Jeff wanted, and my
Yeah.
2 cents were, as a public service to the voter out there, the taxpayer out there, I have a hard time speculating. This is just something that's there, that there is no downside to them just based on that referendum.
And I would say there is, though. And that's what I'm saying, is before I give you this freedom, right now you're constrained. Come back and tell me more about where you're going to get the money from instead.
But there's no promise that they're going to give any more money.
In which case, they don't need the exemption.
Oh, correct.
That's my logic, is so rather than...
It sounds good, and a politician could maybe say, hey, you know what, I supported that going forward. Again, it can be spun that way, and I think that might be a little bit to what's going on there.
It's hard to see it not passing. I agree because of that.
Yeah.
Anybody else wish to speak before I do? One of the things that bothers me about this is that it sounds really nice. Like, okay, you're going to eliminate property taxes, potentially, and nobody likes paying property taxes. But as Mr. Lyons suggested, there is no provision to make up the funding in any other way, which means that if all property taxes are excluded, it has to be replaced at some point with something. Sales taxes, property or income taxes being high on the list. Whenever this community has evaluated property taxes vis-a-vis income taxes, and changing from property to income taxes has been a loser for most of our taxpayers. Also, sales taxes, sales taxes, and income taxes are often collected by the state, which means the state holds the money. The state then can apportion the money as they choose. And in fact, Senate Bill 76 is being debated and allows them to potentially do just that. So to me, this amendment opens the door for Senate Bill 76 to pass, which then gives Harrisburg control of our districts and potentially gives Harrisburg control of our districts and removes local control. So that's my reason for not liking this law too much, and it's worded so cryptically that it's very hard to see that coming. And I appreciate that Mr. Sundo doesn't like to speculate, but I do.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was going to ask you, how much of that is your speculation?
I agree.
Okay.
But Senate Bill 76 is not speculation. That is out there on the floor being discussed. So that is a bit more than speculation.
Okay.
So, any other further opining? I appreciate you all indulging me in this. I think this was important for our community to understand what they're voting for. Item 10.01, reports. No reports.
I just have a brief report. I want to thank the board for once again sponsoring my representation of the board in the district at the PSBA conference this past weekend and at the delegates voting meeting on Friday. I'll just share with you a few notes and explain the links. You know, like most things that we do, you just seem to get out of it what you put in and what you're looking for. And this is only my second year going, and last year I found most of the sessions really engaging, and this year I found a lot of inspiration elsewhere. It's definitely a time to reflect, enjoy the company of colleagues, people who, like us, if you share nothing else with them, you share a passion and interest in public education. You have good company, good conversations, a time to get refreshed and re-energized, and certainly for me also it was a time to enjoy more than I did last year a lot of the student offerings on tap, both the educational showcase as well as the student talent show that they have on the last night. In terms of breakout sessions, I did provide a link to one of North Allegheny's initiatives, so it's interesting I have to travel to Harrisburg to find out more detail what's going on down the street, but it was one of the most relevant ones that I attended, so I did include a link here to North Allegheny's Measure What You Value initiative, and this really spans a number of items. I wouldn't necessarily encourage us to pick and choose items from there. I think it's really a comprehensive approach that they're driving at. But I found that their systematic way that they looked at it was very interesting. Included in there as part of that is actually what has been included in the media is the sort of student wellness, tackling student stress initiative. There's another link to that. That's wrapped around their school start time. So it's really to highlight the approach that some of these topics are discussed elsewhere as well, and the way that it's being tackled comprehensively. I think we do that as well, but I did like their approach. Finally, I included a link. You don't have to click it, Rachel. I tried to include the student showcase from the PSBA video, but it's on Facebook, and Barbara and I, being the proficient Facebook users that we are, couldn't quite make it link here for the general public. But there are so many wonderfully talented students in music and the arts that do come out and perform during the conference, and I wanted to call it to one. You haven't seen Lady Gaga perform until you've seen From Out of Nowhere from East Penn School District do it. You can follow the link there. It is tremendous. There was so much talent, so much dedication to the music and arts in the state of Pennsylvania. It's amazing. She clicked it. Thank you. I will keep it brief. There were some details from the delegate assembly that I'll keep brief here. The PSBA did propose a reorganization from 18 regions into, a 15 region structure into an 8-section structure. That did pass. There was some debate about some other implementation amendments that came along with it, so I think the PSBA is probably trying to untangle exactly what the implication there is. There was one other item, an amendment proposed during the delegate assembly from East Stroudsburg School District, which essentially, my summary would be, it basically removed the hold harmless provisions in our basic education formula, and said the PSBA should advocate for the basic education formula allowing schools funding from the state to actually go down. Because right now, and Dana's talked about this in the past, with that formula, it's really, the impact it can have on a school is capped, and for instance, you can't go down. And so they said, well, why not? If that's the Formula One, let's let it go down. I highlight it because I think it produced some very interesting conversation at the delegate assembly, substantive conversation. It wasn't one about amendments and rules of procedure, which these things often are. And it was very interesting. Ultimately, the amendment was defeated. That is not part of the platform for next year, but I just thought it was an interesting conversation. We'd be happy to talk to anybody about it later in detail.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Lyons?
I just want to reinforce something that Ms. Hathorn talked about at the beginning. We share a lot of good news about academic achievement and performance. We are at a unique time right now in the fall. I don't know that we've ever had literally every fall sport, male and female, performing at a level that gets an opportunity to compete in the WPIAL playoffs, and sometimes as a team, in other cases individually. There's an awful lot of games going on, and we talk about learning inside and outside of the classroom, and one of the ways learning occurs is through those athletic events. Learning occurs as we hear the marching band perform at halftime shows, and we see the impact that it has on the entire school community. So these next 2 weeks, if you're looking for something to do, rain or shine, there is a Pine-Richland team or individual competing in something. And so if you can find a way to get out there and really see the commitment the kids have, their ability to compete with class, it's enjoyable to watch. So consider that really remarkable fall. And Mr. Shoup is busy dealing with all the extra logistics and planning that go with all of the teams making everything and trying to arrange all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. PR pride indeed. Move on to item 10.02, recognition of visitors. Anybody wish to approach the board, please do so. Please state your name, where you're from. Keep your comments to 3 minutes if you could.
Yes, I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Ryan Colombo. I am a candidate for the Pine-Richland School Board in Region 1. I know Mrs. Williams has passed along to you an email that I sent last night, and I just wanted to take a few moments here to clarify some rumors regarding my residency in Pine Township Region 1, or Pine-Richland School District Region 1. I've contacted the Department of Elections, and they have confirmed and clarified, first of all, that I am in Region 1, and second, that I must vote in Region 1. If I try to vote in Region 2, I would be directed to vote in Region 1. They have also clarified that if I win the election, the Department of Elections will and must certify me as the winner. For the past, I've also served a term in Region 1 in voting District 1 in Pine as the majority inspector of elections without objection or incident. What is true that the Department of Elections is considering moving my street at some point in the future into District 2 or Region 2. There are 2 points I want to make clear here. First, the Board of Elections has confirmed multiple times to myself, to others, that any such prospective action does not impact my ability and my current status as a District 1, Region 1 resident and voter, and that the school or the Board of Elections will ultimately certify me as the winner if I win. Second, it is unclear that the Board of Elections will ultimately end up moving my street into District 2, Region 2. The reason for this, District 2 in Pine Township, voting District 2, currently has approximately 1,700 voters. That's as of the 2016 general election. There are more voters coming into this district. The development right across the street from here, for example, all of those voters will be in District 2. District 1 has approximately 1,200 voters. It's a district that I'm currently in. The PA election code has a target of no more than 1,200 voters when it creates an election district. It would make no sense, therefore, for the Department of Elections to actually move my street into District 2 and add additional voters and length of time at the polling stations into District 2. As a final point of clarification, despite what you may hear to the contrary, my entire street has always, its entire existence, voted in District 1, Region 1. The Department of Elections has stated that it must and will certify me as the winner of the election if I am to win. And I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colombo.
Hi, my name is Christine Misbeck. I live at 7019 Oak Park Drive. I am also a trustee on the Pine-Richland Opportunities Fund. And last night, we had a fundraising event at Chatham University, our PR party, as we call it, and it was a sold-out event. We had the Pine-Richland Jazz Ensemble, the high school ensemble play, and the parents, all the community members just loved it, all those in attendance. We also had 3 of our 5 grants that we awarded last year. The teachers were there with the tools, the Chromebooks, the middle school TV studio equipment, and the flexible seating at Richland Elementary, and the Chromebooks were for, at the high school level, were for a geography, or I'm sorry, a GeoGebra or a geometry software that is used on those through the Google apps. So it was a great event. Everyone really enjoyed it. We had a great progressive dinner, got to tour the Chatham University, and we just met a lot of really nice people, made some great partnerships, and so I just wanted to let you know about it. And Prof is continuing to reviewing grants right now, and we're very pleased to be partnering with the district. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Misbach. Anybody else wish to approach the board? Seeing none, meeting is adjourned.